great story, and great to see it told in pictures. Just welcoming Paul Walsh from Johnson & Johnson. He's the energy lead at the Vistacon site and going to talk to us about their journey to a 25% reduction in energy per lens produced.
Thanks very much, Conor. Thanks very much, everyone, for staying back to the last speaker, but hopefully the best to last. I was talking to I've two brothers, and both of them are overseas, and I told them last weekend that I was the only one of the family to walk up the steps in the Hogan stand to say a few words. So a proud Tipperary family has been well represented. So listen, I'm just here to give you an overview of some of the energy projects we've done in Vistacon, formerly known as Vistacon, now known as Vision Care Ireland, and offer kind of, I suppose, if anyone here is thinking of doing some of the projects we've done, my email address is on that, and it's also on the last slide. By all means, contact me and I can talk you through some of the projects we've done, some of the war stories we've experienced, and some of the, if we had our time again, what would we do and what would we do better. So this is kind of showing you our full hand, but by all means, please take it as a benchmarking, if you'd like, for yourselves. So, as I say, I'll just run quickly through the corporate targets. Liam has done a lot of that. I'll dive into some of the stuff we've done in Limerick. We've done a CCP, we've done some geothermal cooling. I know ABV had mentioned that earlier. We've done AHU-free cooling, we've done heat recovery off our compressors. We've done RO recovery, and again, someone else mentioned that earlier. We can help with that. And wind turbine. Our wind turbine was just born yesterday. They just cut the ribbon on it, some of the senior J&J people. So again, we don't have any data from how well it will do, but fingers crossed it'll be a windy 2016. So again, the company overview, Liam went through it already. We've 250 sites, J&J worldwide. Limerick is in the top 3 in terms of energy use. So we float to the top at all these cost-cutting debates to have at worldwide level. My role in Limerick is demand side reduction, so I've got to help them reduce their energy bill, and we're making good inroads so far. Everyone there is keen to make savings, so it's kind of pushing an open door. So I'm lucky to be involved with such an organisation. This is the man that started it all, as Liam said, in 1943. And to be fair, it's continued. The ethos in the company is continually driving to sustainability. A lot of the marketing team and the PR team will say every company has this, but J&J actually have it. And then we have this fund called a CO2 fund that we apply for energy projects too. So if it doesn't meet the standard financial criteria, which is typically an ROI of less than 4 years, we can apply to the CO2 fund, and provided that there's significant CO2 savings, it'll be backed. So that's the reason we were able to get a lot of the energy projects over the line. The guy opposite Barack Obama there is our CEO, Alex Gorski, and he was there promising that we'll deliver 50% by 20% by 2020 and 80% by 2050. So then that filters down to the likes of me and Liam to try and figure out how we're going to do that. So it's a good challenge. We're having good fun doing it. This is the site in Limerick. It's first set up in 1996, and it's grown exponentially since. We make contact lenses, and we supply all of the world except the Northern American market. We make several million lenses per shift. We work on a 24/7 cycle. We only shut maybe Christmas Day and Stephen's Day. Our energy consumption is huge. As I said, we'd probably be on about 153 gigawatt hours. 95 of that would be electricity, 70, whatever the balance is, would be gas. So we are a huge energy user. I think we're the second in Munster, actually, in terms of energy consumption, next to Aughanish Illumina. So we really need to be all over energy, and we've made some good inroads on it. So as part of 50,001, we were able to break down our significant energy users. So our gas, right, about 70% of our gas is consumed with our 2 CHPs, or CCPs in this case, and then the balance is used to generate steam or LPHW. So while I suppose the contact lens is technically an MD&D division, you guys in the pharma world would be similar consumption in that you've got to generate steam and that as well. So we'd have a lot of learnings that we could share with you if that's what you wanted in terms of any projects you want to kick off. Electricity, right? Our big offender next to the production, we have 40 production lines. So the big blue section of that graph, or that pie chart you see there, is power to the lines. There's 3 injection molding machines on each line. There's UV tunnels. There's chillers. There's a whole heap of electrical equipment that we don't sub-meter yet. We plan to. So that's what that blue box is. The next big offender that we can do something about is compressed air. It's a huge energy user for us. Those figures are from 2014, and in 2015, we just ran the calculator today, the compressed air consumption was up at 24% of our site load. So it's a massive area for us, and we've made some good inroads in it, but there's still plenty of room. I suppose the fact that the plant has grown exponentially in the last 20 years, we have added compressor, and we've added all plant really in bits according as the plant has grown, instead of having one central plant room, which we probably should have done 20 years ago, but there was no one going to sign that PO. So I want to talk about some of the projects we've done to date, a couple of successful ones anyway. You won't hear about the bad ones. With the CCP, right, it's a combined cooling and power. We're using two Yanbacker engines. They're 1.5 megawatt electrical output, and the byproduct of that is heat, obviously, and we put those through an absorption chiller to get about a megawatt off each of them. Interestingly, this project worked very well because we sized the CCP, we sized the engines, we sized the system based on our chill water demand at the height of a winter's night. So if you like, they'll always be running, so they'll always be there to supply our base load. They have worked very well. The efficiency of them, as you see there, is 41% thermal and 41% electrical and 42% thermal, and the chiller is working at a COP of about 0.75. The issue we have with them is, I suppose, maintaining the uptime. It's making sure we do predictive maintenance properly and all that type of stuff, which we're getting better at doing, but we always need to improve. And they're offsetting about 9,000 tonnes of carbon per annum. And there's a photo we took last summer, the one summer's day we had, and there's a photo of the engine itself. The other thing we've done in recent years is we did a geothermal cooling where we use bore well water, well water I suppose, but we sunk 2 wells, went down about 47 metres, and we extract about 5 million litres of water a week out of those boreholes, and we use a certain percentage of that water in our process, but the majority of it, we just bring it through a series of pipes in our plant, which is there, and we use it to cool our process cooling water. We do it through a series of plate heat exchangers, and all we add to that water is heat. And then the water is ejected back into an area where it's allowed to cool down and it's sent back to the river. We do it all under very tight EPA licenses, so we don't add anything to the water, we just use the energy in it. And that's saving us about a megawatt, or it's delivering about a megawatt of cooling for us. So again, it's worked very, very successfully. We got several awards for that. There's certain areas that we probably would do better or do different if we had our chance again, but it was quite a successful project. And there's one of the plate heat exchangers. I guess you didn't know what that looked like. The other thing we've done in recent years too was that we implemented free cooling on our AHUs, enthalpy control. I heard one of the earlier speakers talk about it. Again, worked very, very successfully. We're lucky in our production area, we don't control to humidity, so we have to just maintain space temperature. And the injection molding machines are constantly emitting heat, so even on the height of a winter's night, we're cooling the production floor. So the outside air we can pull, the more outside air we can pull in, the better our AHU system works. What else would I say? We had to redesign. So this is a screen grab from our BMS of how the old system was, and you can see there, or maybe you can't, the blue cooling coil was 100% open, so it was constantly heating or cooling the return air with a minimum fresh air intake. Whereas when we implemented the free cooling part of it, the cooling coil now in most instances stays off, unless we have a passing heating coil, which we don't have, of course. But in normal circumstances, we have very little cooling load for our AHUs. Then we put in a heat pump, so similar to that we have we've compressors, we've 11 compressors on site. We do low-grade heat recovery off some of them, which is what this is. We basically, the water that's been rejected to the cooling towers, we divert that through a heat pump, a 500 kilowatt heat pump, and the condenser side of that then is sent into our LPHW circuit. If anything, this heat pump now is at 500 kilowatts is too small, so we're applying for funding to upgrade that to at least a megawatt one. And you can see there that the photograph I took the other morning, you can see the quantity of heat being rejected still to atmosphere is still significant. So in terms of a low-grade heat source, it's fantastic, it works very well. I'd highly recommend anyone to go after that project, and the heat pump never gives us an issue, to be honest. It's really bulletproof. The high-grade side, then we've other compressors, and what we've put in a heat recovery skid that Atlas Solus, that we can take the high-grade heat from those units and we heat the water to 90 degrees. Now, it has an adverse effect on the efficiency of the compressors, so you got to kind of do a balancing act. But it's still, in the overall scheme of things, it works quite well for us. It's basically the internals of the compressor is changed so that it gets a second pass through the elements and the oil circuit. And then we just dump that water straight in, through a heat exchanger, put the energy straight into the LPHW loop. And that's what a heat exchanger, our heat recovery skid looks like in one of our plant rooms. And then RO recovery, again, I heard someone mention earlier that they want to do it. We did it. We had 10 RO skids that were rejecting water. 70,000 meters cubed a year we were able to harness. And instead of sending that to the cooling towers or back into the RO skid, we use it in our boilers. And it works very well on several levels, and it saves water. Our boilers love it because the RO water, they don't blow down as often, and it's a fantastically clean steam generation, so our quality department love it as well. So that's been a really successful project, and I say we can share any information with anyone who wants further information on that. Then our wind turbine, I say it's only recently been born, so these are photographs of a crane, and I have one more photo of it, but it's similar to the one Liam spoke about. It's an Enercon 3 megawatt one. It's slightly smaller than the one in Cork. It's 80 metres to the hub, and the blades are 40 metres. It'll deliver 4 gigawatt hours of power per year. That's what that's what Enercon are contractually obliged to deliver. So as I say, we're hoping for a windy 2016, and it'll blow that 4 gigawatt figure out of the water. And it's enough to support 1,000 average sized houses. And this is an aerial shot the day before yesterday. So you can see in terms of savings, it's very significant. Carbon, again, carbon's a key driver for J&J. They're not necessarily concerned with the dollar figure, it's more the CO2 figure. It's equivalent to 590 cars off the road. Again, because this turbine is in, I suppose, the vicinity of houses, we were conscious of our neighbours and we wanted to keep it low, so we did some magnet and coil technology. It doesn't have a gearbox, so it's very, very quiet, 45 decibels. And it switches off in high winds, and then there's issues for to mitigate against shadow flicker and stuff like that. So that, as I say, I can't talk too much about that because it's just after happening, but I can certainly give any feedback to anyone in the room who's thinking of doing it for their site. And then I suppose what we had delivered, this is kind of a energy per lens over the last 5-year period. And you can see we've reduced the intensity by 25%. So it's a key thing. Our volume of lenses out the door has increased exponentially over the last 10 years, but we're continuing to drive the energy per lens down. So our efficiency is getting better, even though our volume of energy is going up. And that's equivalent to about 50,000 tonnes per annum of CO2, or 50,000 tonnes since we started these energy projects over the last 5 years. Excuse me. So ones we've currently what I just spoke about is historic. What we've currently underway, again, it's only a quick slide, but we're constantly hammering home these energy efficiency directives. So the cheapest gigawatt is the one we don't use. So that's the mantra we keep using to senior management, and it keeps filtering down the organisation. So we're engaged with a lot of different levels on that. We have the corporate projects that Liam spoke about. There's one specifics to our site that maybe doesn't affect a corporate level, but we're drilling that home with it. We have a sister plant in Jacksonville, and we're working with them on that. Our site now is moving away from T5s directly to LED. We're trying to get that over the line at the minute. We DI water, so we send water out to the production lines at 65 degrees, and in some lines it's electrically heated to 90. So we're trying to move away from that, and then we're trying to send hotter water out to the lines and then reduce the electrical element a bit, and that would help with our energy consumption. And then data visualization. This is a big one for us. A lot of the line leaders or the manufacturing folks will come up to us and say, we don't know what our line is using, or we don't know, we're trying to drive our cost saving metric, but we're blind, we can't see her. So we're working on getting all the data from all these pieces of equipment back into a central data lake, our IT folk are calling it, and then we can mine that data for ENPIs, energy performance indicators, to figure out what our kilowatt hour per lens is, or how our chillers are performing based on outside temperature and in real time. We can do it for historic data, but what's the point in looking back? We need to be able to react real quick. So this is the data visualization project we're working on. And then an energy awareness campaign. So we're trying to, I saw a very interesting presentation by Intel last year where they were trying to engage 80% of the people, or 20% of the people that influence 80% of the power, and adopted that similar mentality in Limerick, trying to get key people together and trying to engage them in the energy journey, if you like. And it's working to it's varying the success level. So we're trying to, this is a section of our corridor, we're putting murals on the wall and trying to engage people. There's now a TV in the middle of that flicking up stats around our energy consumption, but it's basically trying to give a dummy's guide to work we've done on the left and what stuff we plan to do on the right. And just so people are going, that's on the way to the canteen, so as people are going to the canteen, they'll start talking about energy, they'll start becoming aware of it, and it's soft stuff, but it does work on the overall scheme of things. So again, the 80% stuff, how we get to 80% by 2050. Lee mentioned Campus Ireland. We're looking at, as a collective site, 5 sites. We're looking at larger heat pumps. We're looking at PV. We're looking at generating more electricity on site, maybe a gas turbine. We're looking at maybe additional CHPs. And there's a deep geothermal, which is a project they're looking at in J&J Belgium, where you drill down to the Earth's crust, about 2.5 kilometres, Liam, and you bring up this hot fluid, and you use that through a heat exchanger to meet your heat load or your chill water load or whatever. Now that's kind of brave new world stuff that I don't think we get the permission to do it in Limerick, but it just shows that the J&J Corporation are thinking outside the box like that, and they've done the feasibility study in Belgium, and they're making a decision, I think, next week whether they're going to go with it or not. But I don't think the EPA would be too happy with us if we start drilling 2.5 kilometre holes in Limerick. So that's it. Thanks very much for your time. I'm quite willing to take any questions, or my email is there. If anyone wants to flick me an email, I'll gladly meet you at a different time and date. But thanks very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Paul. And thanks to all 3 speakers. Bang on time. Thank you very much indeed. Questions? Okay. I'll just throw, it's kind of a bit of a curveball, but to the 3 of you, seeing as you all manage significant amounts of electrical power on your 3 sites, Peter Hayden just threw in the question, if staff start bringing lots of electric vehicles on site and looking for charging, what sort of impact is that going to have on your profile? Have you thought about that at all yet? I'll give you go left to right, yeah. And yeah, you can pick up a mic, gents. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose on the most of the J&J sites in Ireland, we have 2 charging points on each site. Some of them may have 4. So at the moment, we only facilitate to charge 2 cars on our site at the moment. And
so naturally limited.
Yeah, so it's naturally limited. However, if there was more an increase, we'd have to relook at it and decide whether we're going to install extra charging points and do we start charging employees for it and whatever. So, yeah.
That's the question I was going to ask.
Again, it's down to supply and demand.
Yeah.
If the demand is there, you look into the supply. If the demand isn't there, which it isn't at the moment, you don't look in.
Yeah, nothing to worry about.
Nothing to worry about.
And we're in the same boat as Liam. We have some charging points, but there's very few people using them, to be honest.
Right, it's still early days. Yeah, okay. So just, Liam, if I was to talk to one of your staff members, and obviously you've changed the credo, you've made a few updates, right? But what would you think a staff member would say now about the new credo, if you like, for Johnson & Johnson? Have they seen or heard it yet?
I suppose the main thing with the credo for Johnson & Johnson is, I suppose the first main element is for patients and doctors and nurses. So that is the heart of the credo. So that is about the products we make for our patients and for the people that use our products. The big part of it then is the sustainability. So we always look at sustainability and how we look to constantly improving the way we operate our processes. So the staff would be fully engaged in that.
Part of who you are.
Yep.
Great stuff. And Michael, just in terms of the BIM models and you showing them to staff and team leads, etc., how did they react when they saw the actual building in the flesh compared to the model?
Okay, I suppose the surprise was it actually looks like it does what it says in the tin. It actually looks like what you told us was going to look like. Where a lot of the time, I suppose everyone can't visualize it. And when you were up to visualise it in 3D, and it more, you could see from the photographs and the BIM cutouts, it showed you what it was, and people knew what they were getting up front, rather than walking into a place and saying, well, this isn't what I thought I was going to be getting at all, and you could go down a different journey.
Right.
We definitely, you had 100% engagement and more
Very good.
Over it.
Very good. Great. And then just final question for Paul, just in relation to the wind turbine going up, you mentioned that you went for something to get rid of the flicker and low noise, etc. But how did the local residents react?
Quite positively, actually. We were delighted that we had a lot of press releases and we had engaged with a PR company to make sure anything we communicated through local press was properly worded. But to be honest, we have got very good support in that they perceive our plant now to be a green plant, and we're seen to be doing our bit for global warming and that. So, now, to be fair, our site is located in the middle of a technology park, so if we can't get plan permission for a wind turbine there, where can you? Yeah. It just happens to be in, I suppose, as a crow flies, probably a kilometre would be the nearest resident. So we were very conscious of that, and we involved them in the planning application, and their feedback was taken on board, and that's why we went to the low noise one, and that's why we reduced the height of the turbine. So, but overall, the turbine has been perceived very well, yeah, I must say. Yeah.
Great, so there's hope out there for people who are struggling.
Absolutely.
Great, okay, last chance. Right, what I'll do is then I'll just bring matters to a close, gents. If you could just hang on there a sec. I'll just run through, what I think has been a very, very interesting day, and kicked off with Eugene from the ESB. Talked about a whole new model coming at us, and the opportunities for large customers such as pharmaceuticals. If you can forecast your energy, the idea is you're going to be able to do some quite good deals, and if you have the capability in terms of the investments you're making now to come off the grid, you may actually make some significant revenue from it. Alan Freeman from Veolia talked about using the energy monitoring services that they had to not only predict use but to catch losses in real time, which I think resonates with what Paul was just saying there a second ago. GSK Dungarvan, Adrian, talked about using Kaizen as their EMS, and dedicating a 5-day event, which is a huge commitment if you think of in terms of your sites, to looking at energy from a Kaizen point of view. So really, really significant commitment by that company, and moving from wood chip to oil. In terms of hosting Ireland, I think Gary, he gave us some quite visual graphics, but probably the biggest thing he probably highlighted to all of us is that today we're here talking about energy. Maybe the next big thing you're going to have to deal with in terms of managing is going to be data, in terms of securing and keeping your plants on site in Ireland. It's one to watch out for. Abvi and Sligo, Peter Moran, talked about quite a number of outcomes from their journey to 50,001, but the key thing really was that determination to sustain the benefits of 50,001. SEAI, Ivan covered an awful lot of ground in a very, very short space of time, but if I can maybe pull things together, first and foremost, those of you who are using EED, is that you will now, there's a new badge that you can get called Exceed, and you should certainly get in there now, particularly if you've got retrofit projects, to go in and get that and get it stuck on the side of your plant. I think it's something that would be quite visual, and would maybe highlight things that quite often are hidden. He mentioned the funding. He also mentioned where you're going to go next, what's going to happen after 50,001, the energy management maturity model, and that's available now if you want to apply, and really just trying to get these topics up into the C-suite. In terms of the energy audit scheme, that was majority of the questions that Ivan took questions on, but 25% compliance is not bad. I've certainly been chatting to the UK where they did much higher fines. It was 40% in the UK, so I think 25% compliance with the much lower fines that we have here is excellent. With 150 companies completed to date, and many companies doing 50,001 in my experience. But fundamentally, he said the checks are on the way, right? The audit checks are going to happen. It's not going to be the nice guys in SEAI, it's going to be the DCNR, right? So it's going to be a different kettle of fish in terms of enforcement for all of us. Talking then about Derek Mullen from Amgen and some of our afternoon speakers, he talked about the whole area of measurement, and in particular measuring deliberate efforts and not the free rides that you get maybe when you shut down a building. Abvi in Sligo Town, Jim Leahy talked about really the whole area of bringing the new engineers on, and I thought it was quite interesting the way the young engineers just asked the question. They asked the simple questions that helped people to look at things afresh and make some very significant savings. And in the organisation, I think in one case he talked about the gas bill being down 50%. Richard Keegan extended yet more state aids to all of you around the whole area of lean, and in particular, I don't know how many people are going to visit Toyota, but I'd certainly, not having done it myself, but have been involved in those kind of things in years past, I'd certainly highly recommend it to you. And having met some of the consultants that work with Enterprise Ireland, there's very strong services for you there that may help you to reinvigorate some of your services. Liam O'Leary talked about the 2020 vision and the absolute reduction in carbon that J&J have committed themselves to, which I have to say is a very brave thing, having had to pick up the pieces of some of the projects where people have made very significant goals in that area. So I think very brave at J&J, but they certainly have a track record to go with it. And interested to hear from Abby in Cork about the whole people, the visualisation. You know, a picture is 1,000 words. Really, that is a fundamental, and certainly one I've seen work at all levels, whether it's Kaizen or otherwise in organisations. And then finally, Paul from J&J Vistacon, talking about the whole area of sharing experience. Talked about a lot of the journey, a lot of the projects they've done, but extending the offer to share. And I think for everyone who attends these sessions here with Future in Pharma, 50,001 and Future in Food, I think that's really a key thing, is to network, meet the speakers, share the information that you have, share the knowledge. You're all sitting on this small island off the northwest coast of Europe. It is well worth your while doing it. There are a lot of lessons to be learned, a lot of knowledge to be shared, and I'd certainly say I think Paul's offer to share that experience with you is a very positive note on which to end the day. So folks, thank you very much indeed. Thanks for your time, thanks for your feedback, and I just ask you to show your appreciation out to our final speakers, and a safe journey home. Thank you very much.